Welcome to Toastmasters Beta Bay, where we feature speakers from District 4, which stretches from Monterey to San Francisco. My name is Michael Barnaba, and I'm your host. District 4 Toastmasters has just concluded its fall conference, and today we're going to feature the champions who have risen victorious from the humorous and evaluation contests. This is our episode of Champions. The speakers you're about to hear have won competitions at the club, area, and division before going on to win at the district level. The winner of the competition for the humorous contest is David Richey.
Hi, Michael.
Welcome, David.
Thank you.
And welcome, David. And what's the title of your speech?
The title of my speech is Toastaholic.
David Richey, Toastaholic.
Thank you. My name is David, and I'm a Toastaholic. I admit it, I'm addicted to Toastmasters. Are you a Toastaholic too? Take this simple test to find out. Have you ever spent days working on a 1-minute Toastmaster speech? Have you suffered through traumatic life events only to think, wow, this would make a great speech? When you're talking with friends or your family, do you find yourself counting their ahs and ums? Do you find yourself feeling like applauding in inappropriate places, like business meetings or church or funerals? And lastly, do you have more ribbons than a 5-star general? To tell the story of my Toastaholism properly, I need to go back to the beginning. I started speaking when I was just a baby. My first words were, Mama, Papa, distinguished guests. Even as a child, I found my Toastaholism increasing. I used to love to go out to dinner just so that I could give the toast. I was at my favorite restaurant, banging my spoon against my sippy cup, calling for attention. And my dad said, David, for crying out loud, put that spoon down. We're at McDonald's. Just shut up and eat your Happy Meal. The first book I ever read was Bartlett's Familiar Quotations. I used to have a copy of it hidden under my mattress, and I would take it out late at night and read it underneath the covers with a flashlight. My mother grew increasingly worried about me, as you can imagine. One afternoon, I was in the family room, practicing my spontaneous gestures. And my mother said, David, if you don't stop this public speaking nonsense, you're going to lose all your hair. Who knew? As an adult, I found Toastmasters. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. In Santa Cruz, I joined evening Toastmasters. But that wasn't enough. Soon after, I joined morning Toastmasters, and then afternoon Toastmasters, and even the secret midnight Toastmasters. I wouldn't say I idolized Ralph C. Smedley, the founder of Toastmasters, but I must admit, I had a very nice shrine dedicated to him in front of his life-size statue in my bedroom. My Toastaholism started creeping into my family life. One evening, during our normal table topics at the dinner table, I asked my son a question. Dad Master, could you please repeat the question? I knew he was stalling because he couldn't think of anything to say. I was so proud. I said, sure. How has growing up in our family affected you? Fellow family members, distinguished pets. For one thing, I'm the only kid at school who knows what extemporaneous means. And And my hands are strong and calloused because you make us applaud anytime any one of you speaks. We all applauded. My toastaholism even crept into my business life. I started filling out my performance evaluations for my employees on small strips of paper. When asked how we could increase corporate revenues, I suggested a raffle. And I started bringing a timing light into our meetings so that I could tell the speaker when I thought they should stop. Then things got bad. I started sneaking into weddings so I could give toasts for complete strangers. I started looking forward to funerals so I could give the eulogy. Finally, my wife gave me an ultimatum. She said, "I'm tired of you running our house like a Toastmasters meeting. Waking the boys up in the morning by banging your gavel is just scaring them. Your daily agendas are obsessive. And I can't stand it when you use those green, yellow, and red timing cards when you don't like what I'm saying." I flashed the red card telling her time was up. She said, "Well, what do you have to say for yourself?" "Honey, that was a great rant. It had feeling, it had persuasion, it had triads in it. Next time I'd suggest something a little stronger in the beginning, like, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. But overall, a great rant, and I look forward to your other rants in the future." What can I say? I'm a toastaholic.
That was fantastic.
Thanks, Michael.
Now tell us a bit about your Toastmaster experience. Now, how long have you been with Toastmasters?
I've been in Toastmasters for 2 years.
And any offices held?
Yes, I have, because I was the president of our club in the last year, and in my very first year when I was absent from a meeting, they elected me secretary.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. Great job.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. And now to evaluate David's speaker, we have Michael Dart, the winner of the evaluation contest.
Thank you, Michael.
Welcome.
Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and most especially David. You know by now that is a great speech. Why is it a great speech? It's a great speech because it has a wonderful opening. You draw us all in immediately. You say, "Are you a toastaholic?" You look us in the eye, and then you give us 4 or 5 reasons of things that you do. Have you got so many ribbons? More than a 4-star general? We all relate to that. And the most important thing in a speech is very quickly being able to relate to the audience and the audience to relate to you. And you did that very well. The second thing that you did was phenomenal, is the structure of the speech. It just flows. Episode gently ebbs into the next episode. We're emotionally carried along as you mature from this little boy who's a Toastmaster-holic at McDonald's. How sweet. And it builds. The crescendo of your obsession gets greater and greater until there you are, confronted by your wife in a wonderful climax at the end of this great story. And that works. We all love a great structure, and as an audience we want to be drawn into it, and we want to see a character evolving and changing. And we saw you evolving and changing, becoming increasingly obsessive. And that's where the humor comes in, and that's why all the jokes work really well. It's very hard to critique a speech like this because there's just so many positive things. But if I were to offer just a couple pieces of advice, I think you can be even bigger and more dramatic in your gestures than you were. When you're a baby and your first words, Mama, Dada, just build on it, play with that. When you're at the end and your wife is, I'm mad as hell, just be bigger, more engaging, and the audience is drawn in. And that will make the climax of the speech even more powerful. And the purpose of big gestures and a lot of vocal variety is it really gives you tremendous emotional connectivity. That speech has it, and that's the hallmark, in my opinion, of a great speech.
Wow, David, that was fabulous. One of the really great things about Toastmasters is evaluation, and you showed us how well it can be done and how it can be taken to another level. Fantastic. Now, how long have you been with Toastmasters?
I've been with Toastmasters since 2002.
2002, yeah.
Golden Gate Toastmasters up in San Francisco.
Fantastic. Any offices held?
I've been co-president. I think I was elected to that when I was also not attending the meeting, as well as the normal functionary roles through the club.
Fantastic, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. And now we will have a presentation of a piece by Lance Miller, who is the 2005 World Champion of Public Speaking. He recently visited our district for our Toastmasters Leadership Institute training, TLI for short, and Lance has been a Toastmaster since 1990, and he considers himself to be a product of the Toastmasters Leadership Program. So let's listen to Lance as he speaks about his Toastmasters journey.
I'm Lance Miller. I'm the 2005 World Champion in Public Speaking with Toastmasters International. When I won my World Championship speech, it was on the concept of validating what's right and good in people. And, look, we're all human. We're inherently flawed. We're imperfect. It doesn't take any special skill or talent to find an imperfection in another person. Can you find what's good in them and bring that out? Some of the toughest times we have in our life give us the most important lessons that we can carry forward, but we can't carry it forward as baggage. We have to carry it forward as a lesson, and by communicating it and refining it and sharing it with others, we lose the baggage, we gain the lesson. The process of going through Toastmasters helped me find the value in my life, and it wasn't until then that I was really able to see the value in other people and the experiences that they had. And there are so many incredible inspirational moments on a day-to-day basis that are sitting right in front of us, but most of us don't even see them. We're so preoccupied with our problems or where we're trying to go, we're not looking at the value and the beauty of what's happening right in front of us. And that's one of the big shifts I had by looking for speech topics and being in Toastmasters, was appreciating the moment and the lesson of the moment that I could then refine and bring to other people. If you're communicating, you're leading. People are going to listen to you. It's going to affect their life either on a positive or negative basis, and it's going to give some direction to it. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. And it's the ability to stand there and be able to touch the heart and change the mind and make a better world. I mean, if you're going to go learn tennis or golf, you can go out and practice that, and then you're going to play a tournament, you want to make sure that your skills are honed up for the tournament. But there's the tournament of life that we get up every morning and walk out the front door to go do. When do we get an opportunity to practice those skills so that we can continue to excel, but we don't make the mistakes in the tournament, which is on the job, in the community? Toastmasters gives us that environment where we work on our leadership skills, work on our communication skills, we make mistakes, we screw up, we fail, we find our weaknesses, we strengthen those weaknesses, we identify our strengths, we know there are strengths, so when we go out in the world, we can actually lead and speak. I'd always had a passion for speaking, but I never really knew if I was doing it right or not. And when I came into Toastmasters, I saw the component parts of how all these things work. And with that, as I started to learn those, it started to affect other areas of my life in a very positive and dramatic way. And so I have found Toastmasters just to be a great organization and a great program to continually develop your communication and leadership skills so that you have those skills honed when you go out in life to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish.
Welcome back. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Chojnacki. He's a professional speaker, workshop leader, and a sensei in the martial art of Aikido. So I'll watch myself here. As a martial artist and a business professional of over 26 years, Michael teaches these principles in order to create a greater understanding of human dynamics and balance. Michael inspires people to discover their greatest potential. It's my pleasure to welcome Michael Chojnacki.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Wow, over 200 clubs in our Beta Bay area. And what does every Toastmaster ask themselves? What am I going to write about? What am I going to speak about? Well, we really need to consider what we write about and how we write and how we speak and how we deliver, and consider both of those as we construct every presentation. What's your point? In the beginning of a presentation, what is your point? Come out and be clear with your point and purpose to the audience. That way, everybody knows where you're going or where you think where they think you're going. And then build upon that. So we have the writing aspect of our presentation, and then we're going to build into the delivery. In writing a presentation, where do you get your ideas? You have your point, you have your idea, but where do you get your ideas to support what you're going to speak about? I think from life. I pay attention to everyone, everywhere I go, and I just study human dynamics. I was with my wife having a beautiful Sunday brunch at the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite, and seated just 2 tables away was a young couple, married couple, and I could only hear a little bit of this one line every time the woman spoke up. All she would say was, "I don't see myself doing that now, but in 10 years' time, I see myself doing that." And she would go back to eating. And a little while later, "I don't see myself doing that right now, but in 10 years' time, I see myself doing that." Wow. Could write a whole speech about that, how people set up their objectives for what they're going to accomplish in life, also about her philosophy of life. It just gave me such insight into how she saw life. I built that into a very motivational speech, and it's quite popular. Another time, a friend shared a story with us of a terrible airplane flight from San Francisco to New York to London. She left San Francisco, she went to New York. They never took off in New York. They waited all night. She ended up in Spain a day late. Everyone she told that story to said, "That was the worst thing that could have ever happened to you." I took a different spin on the story. Because of her act of kindness, she ended up flying first class from New York to Spain. She was the only one in first class. And she slept peacefully all the way over the Atlantic. True story, but a different spin on where you want the story to go and how you want to develop the story for the point you want to make. So paying attention to your ideas and using your ideas to support what you're doing to give your presentation. Then we start writing, right? Where the pen meets the paper. Well, there's a few more things I can do before I have to write that speech. Well, I'll just think about it. Well, no. Start to write the speech. Start the speech and write. And don't self-edit so highly. Write the ideas out, or if you have another idea, write it out and set it to the side. You may not use it and incorporate it in that speech, but it might be a great idea for another speech. Write and write and write. Then come back to the speech and look at it and try to cut it in half. If you write your 7 to 10 minute speech, cut it in half. Mark Twain was answering a letter from a friend, a correspondence, and he wrote a letter, and it was several pages long. And he reread the letter before he sent it away. And he added one more line at the end of his several page long letter. And he said, "If I had had more time, I would have written a shorter letter." So you have to cut, you have to edit. You've cut the speech in half once. See if you can cut it again. The first time you cut a speech in half, you're going to get rid of the extra words that you don't need. The fillers will go away. The second time you cut it in half, you're going to cut away the concepts you don't need in that presentation that are not supporting your main point or main focus. Every word you say in a speech or every concept should move the speech forward to where you want the audience to go. Not kind of forward, but directly forward. Do you want them to think about something profound? Do you want them to experience a certain emotion, a certain connection? Do you want to distance themselves from you, the speaker? No. You want to create a sense of community. So if you think about how you're presenting, you also have to think about how the audience is receiving what you're saying, which is a wonderful aspect of the evaluation process. I can prepare a speech, I have my idea, I practice it, I deliver the speech, and everyone sends me an evaluation about things I never considered. Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to all of us. Everyone sees the speech a little differently. You write out the speech, it's fairly well edited, then I lay out the speech in front of me, and I go to my special office, the kitchen stove, because it has a timer that counts down. I set the timer for the length of my speech, and I give the speech as if I'm giving it to the stove. No, as if I'm giving it to the audience. And I watch the time down. But as soon as I start speaking the speech and bringing it to life, a funny thing happens. You can write beautifully, but you can't always speak those phrases as eloquently, can you? Or you end up tripping over words and thinking, I'm going too far in the wrong direction, ground it and bring it back to the main point. This is also a time where as I rewrite, I start with my hands to the side and I just let the gestures come out. You say a certain line in a speech, and if you're connecting with someone, you might connect to them or see them or give them something. You might feel something. You might be understanding a little different type of gesture to use. If you're making a point, are you going to step towards the audience to make a strong point? Or are you going to step back if you're distancing yourself or feeling shy or withdrawn about connecting or something in the audience? So think about where your body's moving, how you're using your gestures, also your facial expressions. Something that most people don't consider, your rate of speech. We have a common rate of speech, but if you're going to add a character into a speech, change the rate of speech. Faster, slower. There were two monks in the high mountains walking along a river. They came to a river crossing, and there was an old woman sitting upon a rock in the sun with her belongings, waiting for someone to help her across the river. The first monk walked past. The second monk spoke to the woman, picked her up and her belongings, helped her across the river, placed her down, left her, and caught up to the first monk. The first monk was just so mad. The younger monk was so mad. Don't you know our vows prevent us from touching women? The older monk says, yes, but our first vow is to help everyone that crosses our path. I did help the woman across the river, but I put her down. You, my young friend, have been carrying her ever since. That story is approximately 142 words, cut down from 7 to 8 minutes. So cut and edit. Who are the main characters? Two monks. Can you reduce that word grouping? What were they doing? Walking in the high mountains. Can you reduce that? You reduce it and reduce it and reduce it until you're able to connect as best as you can to the audience with the story in the fewest amount of words. And only then use that story if it's appropriate to support your point. I've written great stories that I have never spoken about because they didn't fit the topic necessarily. Last thing. How well do you like people? We laugh, but before you write a presentation and think about delivering it, do you like people? Because if you don't like people, your best presentation is going to fall flat and you're going to say, my articulation was wonderful. My structure was beautiful. My poise was, well, poiseful. And you'll always fall flat. So you have to really like people. In a group of 100 people, you should find at least 500 things to like about them. Another point will bring me to the close of this show, and that is practice, practice, practice. And then let it be natural. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Michael. Fantastic. Michael Chojnacki. We got a couple of minutes. I did want to ask you, now, if someone else wants to take advantage of your training, is there a way to gain access to you?
Sure, call me.
All right, anytime. And we'll also see you at some of the district trainings at the next TLI, maybe?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And now, how long have you been with Toastmasters now?
122 months.
122 months. Now, that's now, so tell me truthfully, are you a Toastaholic also?
Well, I can't answer that question. My wife's here. No, I'm not a Toastaholic, but Toastmaster has taught me to reconsider everything I say and the impact it has upon others. And that's been great. I'm in the field of human dynamics. It's great. Great training.
Very profound. Look forward to seeing you and learning more from you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. So, thank you so much for joining us here at Toastmasters Bay to Bay. And remember that communications and leadership are very important to our society and the development of our youth. And Toastmasters offers excellent programs for developing both. Now, Toastmasters is in over 92 countries, and District 4 has over 200 clubs available for your visiting or participation. So, when you have an opportunity, please look for a club near you and enjoy the Toastmasters experience. It's profound. As I often like to say that each one of us is born with both a message and a talent. So take your talent, raise yourself to the highest level of elevation you can achieve, and then deliver your message. But on the way to delivering your message, join Toastmasters. They'll give you a method of doing it with the least amount of ums and ahs and with the right amount of pause, right? So, like I said before, find a club near you and enjoy the Toastmasters experience. Thank you for watching Bay to Bay, Toastmasters Bay to Bay. Fantastic.
Thank you.